stories that define our state's character. Here's Kevin Mackey with this week's Montana Moment, brought to you by Montana Chevy Dealers.
It's time for Montana sheep producers to have their animals sheared of their winter wool. Shearing allows newborn lambs to nurse easier. It keeps the sheep cool in hot weather. Shearing is a physically demanding job requiring experience and dexterity. In our Montana Moment, from Lolo, Kevin Mackey with The Wrestler.
Leroy Sakorski's skills as a shearer and his gentle treatment of the animals in his care are in high demand.
I just think that they're a great animal. They don't bite, they're friendly, they're my favorite animal.
Leroy started learning the trade on his dad's sheep ranch in Minnesota 63 years ago.
Yeah, I started on my dad's flock when I was 14. The first year I only sheared so many, but in the second year I sheared all 300, and I hadn't went to shearing school yet, so it was really hard.
By the time he grew up, he was putting his shearing school education to work in Minnesota.
I bought my own farm, and I had 1,000 head at one time. We did well on the sheep. I paid for the farm before I ever came to Montana.
When he moved here, he started shearing for customers all over western Montana.
These are all January-born lambs.
He's been shearing Kim Marr's flock for years.
I raise mostly 4-H lambs. I sell to FFA and 4-H kids. And then I sell a lot of breeding sheep to, anybody who wants to increase their flock or just starting out.
Kim says shearing is an art.
It's physical, but there's also an art to how they do it so that it isn't harmful to the animals as well as to the shearer himself.
Leroy practices the Australian method of shearing. He exerts pressure on the joints in certain spots. It keeps the ewe under his control. It keeps her skin flat to prevent the clippers from nicking her and limits her mobility to prevent injury.
Sometimes they kick up against you, so I hold in the joint right here to keep the leg straight.
After shearing, he also clips the ewe's hooves. You might be surprised to learn what Leroy credits much of his abilities as a shearer to.
Wrestling. I wrestled all my high school years, and I was pretty good. I didn't lose many. I went to the Minnesota State Wrestling Tournament a number of times.
He says in controlling the sheep, he uses the offensive takedown skills he learned in wrestling. Notice how Leroy takes a ewe to the floor so he can gain control. It keeps the animal safe. It's a lesson Leroy learned a long time ago.
Older wrestlers would come to me and say, "You got to learn an offensive takedown. You win all your takedowns by defense." That really helped. I really learned a lot from him.
What he learned in sports has proved to be a practical tool in his profession. Shearing keeps him fit.
I've got good health. That's the biggest blessing. Otherwise, I'd never be able to do it. It's a very physical job. And I liked it because it gives me physical exercise, back muscles and legs. That gets your knees built up.
Depending on the animal, it takes Leroy anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes to shear one sheep. His is a time-honored profession dating back thousands of years. A sheep has always been an animal vulnerable to predators.
They need a shepherd. A sheep needs a shepherd.
They need our protection. Leroy says lots has changed since he started shearing as a young man. Kim says there is no market for her wool.
I throw it away. There's no market for it. And especially with my breed, so mine aren't a wool breed, so the wool isn't as valuable as a lot of your white-faced sheep. But even your white-faced sheep, they're not making any money on their wool.
It's a very good product, but it's not used all that much anymore because there's so many other stuff to make clothes out of, and people aren't using the wool like they used to.
It is hard work, but the electric clippers are an improvement over these old sheep shears. Leroy keeps them around to show what it was like before electricity.
One stroke, just one squeeze and per stroke, and they sheared thousands of sheep with these.
Leroy wears a t-shirt showing all the animals he has sheared through the years. Not just sheep, but goats, alpacas, llamas, even rabbits. He says rams like this one are becoming more of a challenge.
They're very strong in the neck, and they're a little tough to get down anymore.
But he's still up to the challenge. At 78, he says he's got more work to do.
Well, I hope to go till I'm 80 or a little better.
Leroy figures in his lifetime he's already sheared 100,000 sheep. So look for more takedowns in years to come. Kevin Mackey, NBC, Montana. If you want to watch this story again or any of our Montana moments, go to NBCMontana.com/Montana Moment. These unique stories about the Treasure State, its history, and its great people are now the Montana Moment podcast. Look for new episodes every week. If you have a story idea, let us know. Until next time, be safe, stay healthy, and keep making Montana Moments.